Logan Federico was just 22 years old, a bright college student with a future ahead of her. But on May 3rd, 2025, she was brutally murdered in a home invasion that exposed a shocking truth, one that will leave you questioning everything about the justice system. In an instant, Logan's world came crashing down. Her life, filled with promise and possibility, was stolen from her while she slept in a house full of friends. How could someone with 39 arrests and 25 felonies still walk the streets, free to destroy another innocent life? A man who should have been locked up long ago, yet he roamed free, free to do unspeakable things, free to shatter a young woman's world. But how did the system let this happen? How did it fail Logan? And what could we have done differently? Logan was more than just a student. She was a daughter, a friend, a young woman with a bright future that tragically would never come to fruition. From Waxhaw, North Carolina, Logan Federico was attending college at the University of South Carolina, a place where she had friends, laughter, and a world of opportunities waiting for her. She had everything ahead of her. She was known for her infectious energy, her smile, her determination to succeed. People loved Logan because she was always there, always supportive, always kind. Her future was limitless until in a single moment it wasn't. On May 3rd, 2025, Logan woke up excited, ready to visit her friends in Colombia. A weekend trip, just another chance to make memories, explore, and enjoy the simple pleasures of life. That morning, she packed her bags, said goodbye to her family, and left her small town behind for a visit she was looking forward to. A few days spent with friends, a bit of fun, a bit of freedom. But that was the last time anyone would hear from Logan alive. In the blink of an eye, her life would change forever. Logan arrived in Colombia thinking it was just another weekend with friends. But by the next morning, she would be gone forever. What followed would shake her family, her community, and the justice system to its core. A question lingered in the air. How did a young woman, filled with dreams and promises, become the target of such brutality? And what kind of man was capable of taking that all away? The story begins here, and it will not end until we understand the full, horrifying truth. Before I begin, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments below. I'd love to know just how far this story is reaching. It was supposed to be a peaceful night. Logan was fast asleep, unaware that danger was already inside the house. Alexander Dickey, a man with a criminal history that stretched back for years, had just broken into the house where Logan was staying. At 30 years old, Dickey was no stranger to violence. A career criminal with a rap sheet of 39 arrests and 25 felonies, he had one goal in mind: to rob the house. But what happened next, no one could have foreseen. When Dickey found Logan sleeping in her bed, everything changed. His plans for robbery escalated in a way no one could have imagined. He took Logan from her peaceful sleep and dragged her into a nightmare she would never escape. In that moment, Logan's entire world shattered, unaware of the terror about to unfold. Dickey didn't hesitate. With no warning, he shot Logan in the chest, ending her life in a split second. There was no time to scream, no time to fight back. She was caught completely off guard, vulnerable in the safety of her own bed. The man who killed her had no reason to be there, no right to take her life, but he did it anyway with chilling ease. It was a calculated move, swift, brutal, and final. Logan never saw it coming. She was just another victim of a system that had failed to keep someone like Dickey behind bars. Logan's death was a tragic reminder that sometimes life is stolen from us in the most senseless ways. Stephen Federico, Logan's father, spoke out in a way no father should ever have to. His words, raw with grief, left an indelible mark on everyone who heard them. Logan was forced to kneel before her killer. Her hands were over her head. She begged him for her life, but he ended it. He executed her in cold blood. The details of that moment, so haunting, left Stephen devastated. His daughter pleading for her life, forced into a position of unimaginable terror. It was hard to understand, to make sense of how someone like Dickey could be so cold, so calculating. But in that moment, he made sure Logan would never have a chance. The pain in Stephen's voice echoed through every word as he relived the final moments of his daughter's life. Logan never had a chance. She never saw the man who would take her life. No chance to defend herself, no warning, no escape. This wasn't a random act of violence. It was the cold, calculated act of a man who had already proven time and time again that he didn't belong on the streets. But the question lingers. Why Logan? Why was she the victim of such a senseless act? What made her the target of someone like Dickey? How did a man with such a violent past continue to roam the streets, free to destroy another life? The answers were beginning to emerge, but the real horror was just starting. Before we continue, I want to take a moment to thank all my amazing subscribers for supporting this channel and helping it grow. If you're shocked by what's happened to Logan, if you believe that the truth needs to be heard, hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to keep supporting stories like this so we can uncover even more forgotten truths. And hey, share this video with someone who needs to hear about cases like this, because this story doesn't stop here. Stick around, we've got so much more to uncover. How could a man with 39 arrests and 25 felonies still be walking free? Alexander Dickey's criminal history wasn't just long, it was a trail of violence, theft, and chaos that stretched over the years like a shadow he couldn't escape. Each time Dickey was arrested, he managed to slip through the cracks, his crimes each one more violent than the last, seemingly ignored or forgotten by the system meant to protect us all. Assaults, theft, violent outbursts. His record was a laundry list of offenses that should have kept him behind bars for good. But each time, he was released. Dickey wasn't some unfortunate man who made a few mistakes. He was a career criminal, a predator who had no place being free in society, yet he kept getting chances. It's hard to comprehend, isn't it? How did the justice system fail so badly? Dickey's criminal record was like a broken record. Repeated offenses, repeated arrests, yet no real consequences. Each time he was caught, a slap on the wrist, a lenient sentence, a system that failed to protect innocent people, like Logan, from a man who was never meant to be free. It wasn't just one failure, it was a pattern of letting someone who was a known danger to society roam free again and again without any real accountability. And Logan paid the price for that failure. How many times does someone need to be arrested before the system takes them seriously? In Dickey's case, it was as if the system had given up, turning a blind eye to the warning signs. And what happened? Logan was murdered. She wasn't the first victim, and unfortunately, she wouldn't be the last. But hers is the story that broke the dam open, revealing how broken the system truly is. Logan Federico, Logan's heartbroken father, began to speak out. His voice, full of grief and anger, became a beacon for those who saw the cracks in the justice system, who knew that Logan's death didn't have to happen. He asked the hard questions. Why was a man like Dickey allowed to roam the streets? Why wasn't he kept in prison where he belonged? Why was Logan's death allowed to happen? Stephen's voice carried the pain of every parent who had ever lost a child to a failure in the system. He spoke for all of us who are left wondering, why wasn't he stopped? Why did the system let Dickey slip through the cracks so many times? Was Logan's death avoidable? What could have been done to protect her and so many others from the evil that was allowed to walk free? The truth is, no one really knows. But Stephen's fight for justice will continue until the system is held accountable for the lives it has failed. The questions remain. Why did Dickey remain free? And who will be held responsible for the lives lost in the wake of his unchecked violence? Can you believe someone with 39 arrests and 25 felonies was still able to harm another innocent person? What do you think could have been done differently in the justice system to stop this? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read and reply to every single comment. My daughter, taken in an instant, her life stolen, her last moments filled with nothing but fear and desperation. She was forced to kneel before him, her hands over her head, begging for mercy that would never come. Her cries were silenced in cold blood. As a father, I cannot imagine the terror she must have felt. My heart aches with every detail, the horror, the helplessness. She was so young. She had so much to live for. Logan didn't deserve this. None of it. And I have to live with the fact that the system failed her, failed us all. Those words, spoken with the weight of a grief-stricken father, carry the pain of thousands of families whose loved ones were taken by repeat offenders the system refused to contain. Stephen's testimony wasn't just a recounting of what happened to Logan. It was a plea, no, a demand that something, anything, change in a system that let this tragedy unfold. He spoke of the terror his daughter faced, forced to beg for her life, her hopes and dreams ripped away by a man who had been given too many chances to destroy. His words burned into the hearts of everyone listening, people who had experienced loss, people who had been affected by the failure of the justice system. His pain echoed across the nation, a call for change that could no longer be ignored. Stephen wasn't just speaking for Logan. He was speaking for every victim, every person who had been failed by the very system meant to protect them. After Logan's death, Logan Federico didn't just grieve. He fought. He became a tireless advocate for justice reform, demanding change to prevent other families from suffering the way his had. He spoke out, not just for his daughter, but for every victim of repeat offenders like Alexander Dickey, men who had been arrested time and time again, but were allowed to roam free. Stephen was a father who had lost everything, but he refused to let Logan's death be in vain. His pain became his purpose. Every time he spoke, his voice was filled with the resolve of someone who had nothing left to lose. He was going to fight for justice, for his daughter, and for all the other families who had been betrayed by the system. Logan's case became the catalyst for Stephen's fight. The anger, the grief, and the injustice. He channeled it all into a movement for change. Logan's death wasn't just a tragic event. It became the spark for a nationwide conversation about repeat offenders, lenient sentences, and the need for real reform. Stephen's plea, his raw, emotional call for justice, echoed across the nation. But the question remains, will lawmakers finally listen? Or will more victims, like Logan, continue to fall through the cracks of a broken system? The fight was just beginning, but was it too late? And what would it take to ensure Logan's death wasn't in vain? The stakes were higher than ever. The fate of countless other lives hung in the balance. Would Stephen's relentless fight for justice lead to change? Or would the system remain broken, condemning more innocent lives to destruction? After hearing Logan Federico's testimony, how do you feel about the justice system failing him and his daughter? Do you think enough is being done to prevent future tragedies like this? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading every reply. Also, where are you watching from? Let's keep this conversation going. Logan Federico wasn't just a name in the headlines. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend, a young woman full of promise, with a future that was ripped away in an instant. Her tragic death sent shockwaves through the tight-knit community of Waxhaw, North Carolina, and beyond. Her family and friends, people who had seen her grow, who had shared countless memories with her, were left in shock, struggling to make sense of a life that was stolen too soon. Logan was more than just a college student. She was a future teacher, someone who dreamed of making a difference in the world. Her life was one full of hope, energy, and boundless potential. Friends gathered in the days after the tragedy, coming together to mourn, to honor the woman they loved. They lit candles, shared memories, and held each other close, trying to piece together how this bright, shining soul could be taken from them. The impact of Logan's death spread far beyond her family and friends. It rippled through the community, leaving an indelible mark on everyone who knew her. She wasn't just another victim. She was a person, an irreplaceable part of the community. And now, her absence was felt in the emptiness left behind. Logan's life, cut short, had a profound effect on those who had loved her. But the pain didn't stop there. It didn't just stay in her community. Her death sparked a nationwide reckoning. Logan's murder wasn't just another headline. It was the catalyst for a national conversation. How could a man with such a violent past, such a lengthy criminal history, be allowed to commit such a heinous act? The public's outrage was palpable. How could the justice system let someone like Alexander Dickey roam free year after year, only to let him commit even more violent crimes? The cries for justice grew louder with every passing day. Social media exploded with demands for change, for accountability, for a system that would stop allowing repeat offenders to slip through the cracks. People were no longer content with watching repeat offenders walk free, only to harm others. The justice system was broken, and Logan's death highlighted just how badly it needed to be fixed. A wave of public outcry, fueled by Logan's story, spread through the country. Everyday citizens and advocates alike began to rally for stronger laws. Laws that would keep dangerous criminals off the streets and prevent further tragedies like Logan's from happening. Families like Logan's couldn't afford to wait any longer. They had lost loved ones because of a broken system, and they weren't going to stand by while more lives were destroyed. Could Logan's murder be the turning point for justice reform? Would her death spark real change, or would it be yet another tragedy that fades from the public's memory, only to be forgotten as time goes on? The public outcry after Logan's murder sparked a national debate. Do you think the public's outrage will actually lead to real change, or will it fade away like so many other cases? I want to hear your opinion in the comments. And where are you watching from today? I read and reply to every comment, so don't hesitate to join the conversation. When Alexander Dickey was finally arrested, it felt like a moment frozen in time. The community had been on edge ever since Logan's death. The fear, the uncertainty, the frustration, it all boiled over when they learned that the man responsible for taking her life was still walking free. But when the news broke that Dickey was in custody, it was as if a collective breath was taken. The weight of the world seemed to shift just a little. Though it was impossible to ignore the grief still heavy in the hearts of everyone who had known Logan. The arrest was met with mixed reactions. For some, there was a sense of relief, the hope that justice would finally be done. But for others, how could they truly feel peace when the man responsible for Logan's death had been allowed to roam free for so long? How could someone with such a violent past be allowed to live among us? People wondered aloud. How could someone who had been arrested 39 times and committed 25 felonies slip through the cracks? The system had failed, and Logan's murder made it crystal clear just how broken things were. As the trial began, the courtrooms were packed with people desperate for answers. DNA evidence, witness testimony, and the chilling details of the crime were laid out in front of the jury. The defense, of course, tried to do what any defense would: downplay Dickey's guilt. They tried to present him as a man who was misunderstood, whose past didn't define him. But the evidence spoke louder than any argument could. The facts were undeniable. Dickey was the one who had committed this horrible crime. Logan's final moments were impossible to ignore, as her father had testified. Forced to kneel, hands over her head, begging for her life, only to have it taken from her in a heartbeat. But still, despite the overwhelming evidence, a question hung in the air. Would Dickey's calm, indifferent demeanor fool the jury? Could they see through his cold exterior, or would the system once again let him slip through the cracks? Would justice finally prevail? Or would the jury be swayed by Dickey's manipulations and let him walk free again? As the trial dragged on, the question lingered. Could the system actually work, or was Logan's family doomed to watch it fail one more time? With all the overwhelming evidence against Dickey, do you think he truly understood the weight of his actions? Or do you believe he just didn't care? What's your take on how his trial played out? Drop your comments below. I read every one of them. The room fell into an eerie silence. The air in the courtroom seemed thick with anticipation. Logan's family, sitting at the back, could feel their hearts pounding in their chests. Every eye was on the jury as the foreman stood up to read the decision that would determine whether justice had finally been done. And then the words came. Guilty. For a brief moment, the courtroom held its breath. Logan's parents, especially Stephen, could barely process it. Guilty. It was the answer they'd been waiting for, but somehow it didn't feel like a victory. The pain of Logan's absence was too immense, too fresh. guilty. But Logan was still gone. Tears welled up in Stephen's eyes as the weight of it all seemed to crush him. It wasn't justice that would bring his daughter back. Nothing could. For the Federico family, the trial had always been about closure, but now they had the truth in front of them, and it didn't feel like enough. Justice had been served, but would it ever truly heal the wound? As the verdict reverberated through the courtroom, the world outside was already buzzing with conversation. Logan's case had shone a bright, blinding light on the flaws of the justice system. Her death, her brutal, senseless death, had become a symbol of how broken the system was, how it failed to protect the innocent, how it allowed repeat offenders like Dickey to slip through the cracks again and again. This wasn't just about one family's tragedy. It was about a system that for too long had let victims fall through the cracks. The public was demanding change. Lawmakers couldn't ignore the outcry. The legal reforms that followed Logan's death were a testament to the fire she had ignited in the hearts of thousands. But would those reforms be enough? Would the system truly change, or would Logan's death just be another tragedy forgotten by time? Justice had been served, but at what cost? Would Logan's murder be the catalyst for lasting reform, or would it be another case lost in the annals of history? The answer lies in what happens next. After the verdict, do you think Logan's family will ever find peace? Or is the pain of her loss something they'll always carry? Let me know what you think in the comments. I read and reply to every message, so don't hold back. Also, where in the world are you watching from right now? Logan Federico's name became more than just a memory. Her story ignited a fire, a movement. Her death was senseless, tragic, and heartbreaking. Yet from that pain, something beautiful began to bloom. Logan's story didn't end with her death. Her legacy lives on through the changes her case inspired, the fight for justice that followed her brutal loss. Her case highlighted the profound flaws within the justice system, the broken promises of safety, the failure to hold repeat offenders accountable. As Logan's parents mourned, they also became the fiercest advocates for reform. The nation was watching. The outcry was deafening. The questions relentless. Why had a man with a violent history been allowed to roam free? Why had the system failed to protect Logan and countless others like her? And slowly things started to change. Her case helped raise awareness about the systemic issues plaguing the justice system, highlighting the need for harsher sentencing, better oversight, and more stringent measures to protect the public from repeat offenders. Logan's death sparked conversations that would have otherwise remained buried. Conversations about the brokenness of the system and the way society views the rights of those who have already caused harm. It became clear that this wasn't just about Logan, it was about all the victims who didn't have a voice. Stephen Federico, Logan's father, wasn't just grieving, he was fighting. "I won't stop until no other family has to endure what we've been through," he said, a conviction in his voice that echoed across the nation. Logan's loss would never be erased, but Stephen's fight for justice, for accountability, had only just begun. He knew the pain of losing a child, but he also knew the importance of fighting for those who didn't have the chance to speak for themselves. "We're not just fighting for Logan anymore," Stephen continued, his voice heavy but resolute. "We're fighting for every family, every victim who has fallen through the cracks of a broken system." Stephen's advocacy was the fire that kept burning, pushing for change, pushing for the justice that Logan, and too many others, deserved. Logan's legacy will continue to inspire, and yet there are still so many families who will suffer unless real change is made. How many more innocent lives will be lost before the justice system is truly reformed? Logan's story won't be the last, but will it be the turning point? Thank you all for sticking with me until the end of Logan's story. You're the ones keeping these important discussions alive. If you believe in justice and change, like this video and hit that subscribe button so you're always the first to know when we drop more hard-hitting stories. And hey, don't just stop here. Share this video with someone who needs to hear these types of stories. We're all in this fight together. If you want more cases like this one, check out our previous videos on this channel. Your support means the world. Let's make sure Logan's story is never forgotten. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we can ensure Logan's legacy lives on, fighting for a world where justice is for everyone, not just the lucky few. Let's make sure her story isn't forgotten.